У нас следующая презентация доктора Питера Вайнена из Нидерландов. Питер имеет высшее образование, специалист широкого профиля по птицеводству, международный консультант в области ветеринарной медицины. Он представит свой доклад тоже на тему сокращения антибиотиков. Давайте послушаем. Peter, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Please share your screen. We are glad to see you here first time.
Okay.
We've never met before, but we hope to communicate in future. So let's start. You can really share the screen. And,
I'll try to share the screen. One moment, please. This one. Can you see it?
Yes, we do.
And you can also hear me well?
Yes, quite well.
Okay. Well, first, thank you for having me and inviting me, both to you, Damata, and also to Trout Nutrition Russia. So I did hear some Russian introduction, so I don't have to introduce myself anymore, I think. So
No,
I will start.
No, you don't.
Okay, so I will start the presentation. So I will talk about the way we coped with the antibiotics and the loss of the antibiotic growth promoters in the Netherlands and also in the rest of Europe. And the first question then was really how to cope with the replacements of the antibiotic growth promoters, and at the same time not use more antibiotics. That was the first question.
Peter, excuse me, could you please open the screen, full screen?
Sorry?
Press the button on the bottom of the screen, just the right button, just next to the zoom. Yes, this one.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
This is better, yes. So that was for us the most important question first. And then the question was, okay, why did we use antibiotic growth promoters? That was to get better technical results. And the efficacy of those growth promoters was mainly because their effect on the digestion. So knowing that, we had to take care because the antibiotic growth promoters, there was a fear there about the MRSA development and mainly ESBL. And what happened at that time, that was in 2006, that there was a restriction, so it was not possible to use growth promoters anymore in the feed in Europe in total. Now, what were the effects at that moment in time? At first, we saw a race in the use of the therapeutic antibiotics. And because of that, there was a government action in the Netherlands in 2011. And they said there should be an obligatory reduction of the antibiotics of 70% in 2015. So, I'm sorry, I missed one, so this one. What you can see here is indeed that we got this race at first in the therapeutic antibiotics, and that since the government said, okay, you should go down to 70% in 2015, that it started to drop down. The blue line is the one from the calves, and the orange one for the broilers, and this one is for the turkeys. And you can see that the turkeys, they stayed behind in the beginning because it was quite difficult to cope with the situation in the turkeys. So turkeys are quite sensitive for digestion problems. And only in the last few years, you see this tremendous drop in the turkeys. So we really had to learn to cope with this situation by not using the growth promoters anymore. I think this goes too fast, so yeah. So what you can see here is a graph where the different turkey companies have their amounts of usage of therapeutic antibiotics. And the red line is the line what the government says you should be under that. And you can see that there are still a lot of turkey farms on the right side, and some of them are really quite high in the usage of the antibiotics. So we are going into the right direction, but still there is a lot of work for these farms at the right side. And this is a total overview of the sales in the Netherlands of antibiotics. And you see a very, very big drop here after, let's say, 2010. And we are now indeed on a level that is 70% less as before. So now the question is, how did we achieve this? Well, first, there was a very, very strict control by the food and health authorities in the Netherlands called the NVWA. There was also a ban on the preventive use of antibiotics, so that was not allowed anymore. So we couldn't use antibiotics anymore in hatcheries, and it was also forbidden to use these antibiotics in a preventive way at the start of the cycle or in the rest of the cycle. Furthermore, a central database was there, and it was obligatory to put in every antibiotic into that database, so every use of it. And the government has control over this database, so they can exactly see what is used and when it is used and for what reason it is used. This gave them the possibility to benchmark between the different farms, and also to benchmark between different beds, and also in the end, but that was quite difficult because they didn't want that, between the different hatcheries and feed companies. Now I'm telling you this because in the Netherlands we have a different system than in Russia. We have more individual farms instead of let's say integrations like your company is, where you have your own business with your own hatchery, with your own feed company, so it's all in one hand. You might get also some chicks from Europe, but okay, some pools, but that's another question. But it's more in one hand compared to the Netherlands, for instance. So we are quite able by doing this, by benchmarking between the different companies. So this is just an example of one company compared to the average of the whole country. So in green, one company, and this is the average of the whole country. And then you can see that for this company, they were higher than the average in 2011, but 2013, that was quite a good drop in the usage of antibiotics in average in our country, but not in this company. And here at the downside, you can see, okay, your own company, and you see that there is a raise in antibiotic use in this company, and that the average of the country at that moment was there, and that the government would like to see it below the red line. So it's just an example, this. And here you can see another way of what you can see because of that database, at what time you use the antibiotics. For instance, here there's a lot of usage in the 2nd week and 5th week. And here in this graph, you can see why it was used. In this case, there was a lot of usage because of locomotion problems. So this is also seen by the government. And this is a third graph where you can see which kind of antibiotics were used. And the government is especially interested in which group of antibiotics we use. And I'll come back to that because we have antibiotic groups of first, second, and third choice. This is a graph that the government doesn't have. And I have to explain this graph to you because this is a comparison between the different feed companies and the usage of antibiotics of the customers of those feed companies. And that is in red, the daily dosage of the feed companies, of the turkey companies, and in yellow, it's the feed company. So you can see, for instance, that here, for this feed company, that they have a very, very high usage of antibiotics. Now, this is not completely honest because this company doesn't have a lot of customers. This one, however, has a lot of customers, and you can still see that this one is also above the average that you should use in antibiotics. So this is a way of comparing the different food companies, and you can see that there are big differences. So I would like to be in the low side here, where you say, okay, low usage of antibiotics from that feed company. Sorry. I go further. So then, how did we achieve this this lower usage of the therapeutic antibiotics? At first, there was an obligatory one-to-one relation from a vet to the farm and the farmer. And we had an obligatory farm health plan that was made by the vet. For each usage of antibiotics, we have obligatory postmortem and an obligatory antibiogram. And we have to test that per house. So not per farm, but per house. And when we use antibiotics, we have to follow a formulary, the official one, where every antibiotic is stated when you can use it against which disease and for what animals. And then at last, there is this first, second, and third choice of antibiotics. I will show you. This is just the lab example, what we do in our lab. And this is a report of it, of some of the work. And in this case, we found an E. coli bacterium in the heart. And we did some testing of the sensitivity. And you see here the results. And this is divided in first, second, and third choice. And as you can see, it's the tetracyclines and the penicillins and the trimethyl sulfa are here. And then some other antibiotics here. And the third choice, there is enrofloxacin. What our government wants is that we don't use the third choice antibiotics. Fourth choice antibiotics are not allowed at all. And that would be the XNL, for instance. That is because of the ESBL problems they have in humans. Now, these antibiotics of first choice, they don't have a big influence on, for instance, ESBL forming bacteria. So that's the reason why they're first choice. These ones have a little bit more influence, and this one, that is because this is reserved for humans, because it's quite important that they keep this as a good antibiotic. So that's the reason of first, second, and third choice. It makes life not easy for us. Now, about the basics, when we talk about the usage of antibiotics, it's of course, first, you should have your management right, your biosecurity right, your vaccination program should be right, and it should be performed in the right way. And then as last, as a reserve, we have our antibiotics, our therapeutic antibiotics. If you do it wrong, and you have your basics wrong, so your management is not right, your biosecurity has flaws, and your vaccination program has some problems, then what you see in the end is too much usage of antibiotics. And then you're too late with your alternatives to stop this problem. And the alternatives being, for instance, the acids in water and in feed, some products, probiotics, etc. There are a lot of products. I'll come back to that later. So when we talk about management, one of the most important things for turkeys to get rid of antibiotics is to take care of stress by the birds. We should prevent any form of stress. And there are a lot of stressors in possible stressors in the farm, like climate stressors, feed and water quality, the litter quality, the crowding, the high growth rate, but also the poult quality, and of course, the diseases. And all these stress factors have an influence on the gut and on the immunity of a bird. This is what we don't like to see, this kind of droppings in the houses. So we should prevent stress with good management and with good preventive measures. Now, when we talk about alternatives, in the Netherlands, we have, for instance, in the broilers, that we use only the slow-growing broilers in the Netherlands, and that gave us a lot of air, let's say, because these birds are less sensitive for any disease, and we see that we don't need so much antibiotics in these type of birds. So what's happening now is that in the turkey sector, and this is a picture from Germany, that they are also looking to other types of birds that grow less fast than, for instance, the big six. And because of that, they are less sensitive with digestion problems, which is one of the main factors of antibiotic usage. And this is just an example in Germany what they're looking at, and this is a type of bird called the Cheshire Bronze. And they say, okay, when we're going to use it, you should have a maximum growth of 100 grams per day. So you get much less meat from the same farm than before, but also a lot less usage of antibiotics because they are not so sensitive, these birds. So when we're talking about disease prevention, of course, everything should be good in your breeders and in your hatchery, and a good rearing period in your birds. Then for me, on second place comes the biosecurity. Very, very important. Some things in red here, like the rodent control, quite important. We found out with the AI problems that we had, because it's possible that, for instance, rats can carry material, infected material, like droppings from water birds inside the house, and they carry the AI inside the house this way. And for me, also very, very important is the all-in, all-out system. That is, in the Netherlands, it's quite strict. For instance, in broilers and layer farms. In turkey farms, it's much more difficult because mostly there is still the system that we have the males still on the farm when the new young birds come into the farm. So you never have an empty farm. Nowadays, there are farmers that only use males or only use females, and they have the possibility to really empty the farm and then get rid of all types of diseases. I think this is one of the main issues to really clean out a farm of a difficult disease. But it might be difficult in the turkey sector because of the system. Then, of course, the feed and water quality should be optimal, like your vaccination program. and everything that can be done that is within your power to prevent any gut disease on your farm. That means everything should be correct in pest control, insect control, worm control, and you should use alternatives for your antimicrobial growth promoters, like the probiotics, the organic acids, and other additives. And treatments are on the last place then. To do that in the right way, you really need the monitoring. You need to monitor everything for feed and water intake. You need to monitor your vaccination program by seeing whether the vaccines were taken up by the birds, yes or no. And of course, you need to control your other programs, your health programs. When we're talking about diseases in the turkeys, for us, the main diseases are the leg issues with the foot pod dermatitis, the cowboys, that's the birds with the really not straight legs, the bacterial diseases, MS, Pseudomonas. Then we have the problems with lung diseases like the TRT, the ORT, the E. coli complex, and the fungi. And then, of course, very important infectious diseases like the ND and the AI. And furthermore, not really a disease, a lot of problems with pecking and cannibalism. All these things should be monitored on your farm. For me, the most important, and you can, I missed some picture here, sorry. Sorry, I go back to this slide. I took out some diseases that are very, very important for the gut problems, the digestion problems in turkeys. And for me, in the first place, it's dysbacteriosis combined with coccidiosis and Clostridium. I won't go into this because my colleague Mark Heijmans from the Netherlands will go into that. But also other issues are there, like the Salmonella, viruses are there. E. coli is quite important. Fatty liver syndrome, I also will not go into that one because also Mark Heijmans will go into that. And the black hat, also the same. There's one issue that I should explain here, but I can't see it in this slide because it's not translated. In the Netherlands, there is a system from the Poultry Health Service Department where they can check via a so-called VIR check. It's a test where they check the biosecurity system. So after disinfection of a farm, you check the floor and other parts of the house, and you can see whether there is still viruses left after you disinfected your farm. And this can give quite some good information when you are having problems with different diseases on your farm. But that's maybe for another time. When we monitor, you can see this picture, we have to monitor everything. But from the pictures, you can see how I prefer the monitoring when you go into a house by what you see, hear, and feel and smell in a house, because that's your first monitoring. And then afterwards, you can also use your lab, of course, with the serology, the PCR, and the sequencing. And what we do a lot in the Netherlands is the monitoring by the Poultry Health Department, but also by the government. And we have this system called the EWS, the Early Warning System. And one example of that system is a picture of the Netherlands. And you see an overview of findings with AI in the Netherlands. This is not all the high path AI, but mainly the low path AI. But this way, you really get a nice overview where there are risks of infection coming in by wild birds. This is a picture of 2019 and 20. You can see by the colors, and you can see differences and what we found. In colors, you can see whether it's H5 or H7, not necessarily high path, and the green ones are anyway low path. The low path that we saw mostly in those years was H6. In this year, we saw many high path, mainly in the wild birds, and it was mainly H5 and N1. Furthermore, about the monitoring, I really like you to check your biosecurity system, because of all the problems when you don't do your job right there, that you really keep diseases going on your farm. But first, again, it's all in, all out. That for me, it's the most important one. This is an example of the vaccination scheme that we use mainly in the Netherlands for the turkeys. And there's a lot of vaccinations going on, and this is quite a normal vaccination program. Whenever there are more problems in the farm, then we're talking about these ones, and then we can also add into this program extra injections by killed auto vaccines. And the ones that we use, it's mainly E. coli or T, but sometimes also these other ones. And I put a question mark against AI, because it is possible to also vaccinate against AI with auto vaccines, and they did that in the past a few years ago in Germany against the H9N2. So, what are the alternatives for the antibiotics and antimicrobial growth promoters? There is yeast. Henk told you already about it. The organic acids. It's quite important there that you have the buffered organic acids. And I put an extra one there for the butyrates, but I won't go into that. Plasma, prebiotics, probiotics, essential oils. So there's a lot of products there. Vitamins, emulsifiers, betaine, enzymes, mycotoxin binders, and of course, products that you all know, the anticoccidials, worm products, and vaccines. So that's a lot of products there. And then the question is how to choose a mix. Well, this is too much to go into, but you should really consult then the vet and the technician and make a plan about which ones to use. For me, at this moment in time, the organic acids and the probiotics are used most and with quite good effects that we see in the Netherlands. Of course, all the other ones are also used, but they have been used anyway in the past. So the extra ones that are used now more today than before are the probiotics and the organic acids. Also, what is used more is the essential oils, but in turkeys we see a lot of problems because they are quite sensitive for taste differences when you use them in the water. And when they stop drinking, then the problems get bigger instead of getting smaller. So you should be very careful with this, with taste issues. So you should really try them out and confer with people who know about the effects in turkey flocks. These are some pictures of the importance of having clean drinking water systems. This is the inside of the water pipe, and you can see that there is a lot of dirt at the inside. It's so-called biofilm with bacteria and also molds in there. And this is the inside of the same pipe where you can see that it is quite clean. That's nice. That's because they cleaned it. Of course, we try to check the water, bacteriological, but also chemical. And this is the result of the check that we sometimes do, and then you can see what we really like in the results. But I see some problem here because it's also not translated with the norms. But again, in the original presentation it was there, so you can look it up. Here you see some norms where you can see the difference between good and wrong findings in the water. And at the right hand side, you can see the same, but then for humans. And that sometimes you can see that for the birds, they are even more strict than for humans. But okay, that's just an indication of how important we think the water quality is for your birds. So when we're talking about these water pipes, and you talk about having them clean, then first you should really use products like chlorine, hydrogen peroxide, and then stabilized one, or Virkon S. And once you have them clean, then it's a thing to keep them clean, also during the cycle. And what we use nowadays a lot are blends of organic acids with copper, and we have them in the water, and we keep the pH there between like 3.5 and 4, and because of this, you won't get a new biofilm in your water line. And bacteria are really not happy in this kind of pH. So for instance, Salmonella won't grow in there, but also E. coli not. The other advantage is that the pH in crop and stomach will be helped to keep low, and it will also help you with your digestion in the birds. Sorry? But this is an example of a product that we use a lot. It's a blend with the organic acids together with copper, and it's a buffered blend, which is quite important. Otherwise, it wouldn't work that well. Here you see some testing going on and some gear that we use to put it into the water. Also, quite important is the usage of organic acids in the feed. It keeps your feed not completely free, but there are less antibiotics there. And for instance, Salmonella bacteria, they don't like organic acids in the feed, so they won't grow there anymore. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't take care about your ingredients and that they should be as free as possible. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't take care of your production methods in your factory. But this will help anyway. It will also help to keep a healthy flora. It helps digestion. An example of that would be the Silicide from Trouw Nutrition. And we saw some good results together with the Celco pH of Trouw. When the one is in the water and the other one in the feed, yeah, you keep your flock in a preventive way healthy. So in the Silicide, for instance, there is a blend of organic acids, and again, it's buffered. And this one works also in crop and stomach, but also more in the gut, more so than for instance, the Celco pH. So it helps in combating your Salmonella, your Clostridium. And Clostridium is one of the most important ones in turkeys, but Mark Heijmans will go into that. So then the question you could ask to me is, okay, what then really made your antibiotic use less in the Netherlands? For me, the most important one is awareness. Awareness with the farmer and awareness with the veterinarians. So they are constantly thinking, how should I manage my flock to really diminish the risks? Then, of course, there's the benchmarking. As a vet and as a farmer, you are not happy when the government finds out that you use too much antibiotics compared to your colleagues. So the government is controlling. Then, of course, your good management is important. And we have this system of the good veterinary practice in the Netherlands with the contract between a vet and a farmer, a health plan, a treatment plan, obligatory visits, post-mortem and antibiograms, and of course the evaluation afterwards. But still in some farms it didn't work, as I showed you in an earlier graph. And then the question is, why? Sometimes we have some unwillingness that the farmer really doesn't want and some bad management. Hygiene mistakes, we see them still quite often. Vaccination mistakes. And then in green, two types that in the Netherlands is quite difficult for a farmer. It's the bad chick quality and the bad feed quality, because it's not an integration. And he buys his chicks from a hatchery and he buys his feed from a feed farm, and he doesn't really have a lot of information about the quality. That's different from situations in Russia. When we talk about the feed quality, the main problems we had in the past, we had to learn to work with that because of the AGPs going out, and also in the Netherlands there was no usage of the animal proteins anymore, so they had to learn to work with that, the feed companies. On the other hand, with point 6, we see farmers that have problems with costs. So whenever his system of the house, for instance, his ventilation system is wrong, and he needs to really amend that, then sometimes there are high costs involved and he can't pay for that. So that means that he can't change his ventilation system and he will keep having problems with health problems with the birds. And sometimes in the end, there are no answers because it remains biology, the infection. So, what are the conclusions and the questions? Can we solve all the problems? No, we can't. Can we reduce the use of antibiotics? Yes, we can, but not always. And can we do without antibiotics? No, we cannot. Whenever there is a disease, only antibiotics will work. So things like acids are no medication, but are only preventive. So once you have a disease, you still need your antibiotics. Will it stop the antibiotic resistance in humans? No. The main problem still in humans is the use in humans themselves. So even you should think sometimes the other way around. When people use antibiotics, they get resistant bugs and they can transfer them to animals. So instead of a zoonosis, you have a humanosis. Is the Dutch model the only one? No, it's not. So it's based on our system in our country. So for you in Russia, it would be important to use the good things and leave out the useless elements which don't fit in your company or in your country. So is the Dutch model the only one? No. The pros are its reduction in the antibiotic use, and you get less negative press, politics, and public. The cons are that there are sometimes higher mortality when you're too late. Sometimes there is problems with animal welfare when you can't treat the birds. And we have a loss of a veterinary tool, for instance, the usage of Baytril. And sometimes we have only the possibility to use the first choice antibiotics. So no other ones. And in future, we might get more resistance against these first choice antibiotics. So then at the end, we are left with nothing. So that might be a problem. So we really, really have to take care into prevention. So the take-home message for me, for you would be management failures are a recipe for use of antibiotics. Alternatives for antibiotics are preventive, and the antibiotic use, it's only when needed is curative and not preventive. So, and that would lead me to the end of my presentation and maybe some questions if you have them.
Dear Peter, you are perfectly in time for the next break. First of all, thank you very much for the detailed explanation, description, proposals, options, and all the work done in Netherlands.